Okay, welcome everybody. It's 6:15. We are here convened for Public Works Committee. All trustees are accounted for, minus the absence of Trustee Kudo, who has let us know that he is not going to be available this evening. So tonight we have one agenda item. It's to consider the transportation and parking regulation request for reckless driving signage. Leanne is here to discuss further.
Well, if you recall, the last time we met to discuss this topic, you were reviewing a traffic and parking program request.
Yep.
That was submitted by Mr. Pendleton on behalf of the Parks and Public Spaces Pedestrian Bike Subcommittee.
Yep.
And there was some discussion about
Right.
options, effectiveness, and the
Yes.
thought was that maybe that might be addressed with a discussion.
We had a sort of lengthy discussion about signage and, the sort of excessive signage that we already have on Capitol, and if there were other things that we could do to, maybe more creative ideas or something other than just a straight sign. So if you've had time to, this was your request and you watched the video, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this, unless Trustee McGovern here has.
I mean, I would just kind of reiterate what I said last time. I hope that we can get some kind of sign up there. We passed this ordinance to try to provide a deterrent for reckless driving, and similar ordinance passed in Milwaukee, and they've already been out, towing some cars that have been used for reckless driving and creating an unsafe environment. So I just think, here in Shorewood, it can just be a sign, would just be another part of just trying to change the culture around driving a little bit, just have people hopefully drive more carefully. And if they don't, there is that option. But I just feel like since we passed the ordinance, we have an obligation to let the public know that this is a rule, and that, if people drive recklessly, they could have their car towed.
Thank you.
So just a couple, address some of the concerns or comments raised last meeting. I totally agree with Leanne's comment that, at certain places in the village, certain entry places in the village, we have a lot of signs. Sign fatigue can set in if you put up too many signs. And the one place that I can think of that's particularly true is when one is coming from the river, crossing the Capitol Drive Bridge, just before one gets to Culver's there. We got a lot of signs there. So the question is, can we move some of those signs? We irritate some people if we move some of those signs. And the two that occur to me is we've got a bicycle-friendly community sign at that stretch when you're eastbound on Capitol. We've got a Bird City sign that's there. Maybe we've got some other signs that we could, still honor the fact that we have these achievements, but place them somewhere else in the village. There was another comment that these signs don't exactly say "Welcome to Shorewood." They're not exactly the friendliest signs, but I believe they're necessary. We need to have no we shouldn't be giving reckless drivers a break, given the type of behavior that we see on our streets and that are prohibited by the reckless driving statute that would allow towing and impounding. We need to send a very clear cold water message to folks who might come into Shorewood and think, I'm not in Milwaukee anymore, no longer in the big city, little tiny police department here. We can just ignore and have a whole lot of fun racing down the streets or doing wheelies on the motorcycles or whatever here. So in terms of priorities, my thought is let's have an effective sign design. That means color, that means graphics, that means limited text, right? Something that will be noticed, right? In the materials, we all saw this, text only sign, the no reckless driving, arrest and vehicle impoundment, and then it even gives us a statute in this example that I saw from other villages. I just don't think that's an effective sign, and I almost agree. Well, I do to a certain extent agree with Trustee Kudo's comment last time that if we're just going to go with a regulatory sign, a text only sign here, we're not moving the needle. I just don't think it'll get noticed. I don't think it'll get read. So I would oppose that. In terms of the ranking, I would say go for an effective sign, something with graphics, something with color, something with minimal words, if permitted by the manual on uniform traffic control devices. And I would then say, if we can't do that, then a text only sign, because I think that's a good reminder to some drivers, not all, not enough, but some drivers and to police officers who drive by that every day and are reminded, yeah, the village board did pass this policy. The village board is very serious about deterring reckless driving. A comment I have heard from some in our police department is that we don't really have a reckless driving problem in Shorewood. You want to see reckless driving, come to Milwaukee. That's where you see reckless driving. And I just don't accept that. We have a village, we have village streets, we want village streets. We want a certain type of driving in Shorewood. So I think the problem of reckless driving is sufficiently serious that we should remind our police department and drivers, both residents in Shorewood and people coming into Shorewood, we've got this ordinance. We're serious about deterring reckless driving. And then the last, if we can't do one or two of those, I would say, let's look at the issue of yard signs. As I mentioned to Leanne, you see other communities put up yard signs that say school's in session, right? They're yellow and black. They put them up seasonally in September and October, reminding people, hey, it's time to start paying attention to crossing guards and crosswalks and school zone speed limits. We could do something like that. Put signs that say, that would have colors and images and icons like that, and put those up seasonally. I think the problem we see most with reckless driving in Shorewood is in the warmer months. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe police who are out on the streets more often than I am would disagree with me. But when I notice it, it's in the warmer months, May, June, July, August, particularly the Memorial Day weekend. I don't know what it is. Just everybody seems to go nuts. The Labor Day weekend. They want to get over from, the hot part of the city and they want to get over to the cool part of the lake. And unfortunately, a lot of that traffic is coming through Shorewood, and a lot of, or too many of those drivers and those motorcycle riders are ignoring our road rules and the reckless driving rules in particular here. So that's how I would rank it as to what I'd like to see. But again, it's your call. You guys passed this ordinance at our request. You guys said you didn't want to make this a revenue program. You wanted to make it a deterrence program. So if we want to make a deterrence program, I think we got to put up signs. Otherwise, we're kind of then just leaving it to the police to educate people as they pull them over. And that doesn't seem, I don't know, I don't want to say I really want to be overly fair to folks who are violating these laws, but also I think we should give them notice, and hopefully that'll change their behavior.
Good question.
No questions. I did mention this last time though, that one of the reasons why I liked the graphic is, it just kind of provides an example of what we're talking about. And I think it's hard to kind of put this in a graphic, but whoever the graphic designer is here did a good job, because it shows the cars up on two wheels and the motorcycles up on one wheel, which I just think kind of sends a message like, hey, we're talking about like, don't do this really extreme stuff. Like, we still want to be a welcoming community. You know, so I think this one is okay in the sense that like, I don't think we're deterring people from coming to Shorewood or anything like that. So I would, like I said last time, I'd like to have a sign that has a graphic, and maybe we could move some of those other signs, like the ones about like being a bird friendly community, or, tree city, or whatever the other ones are. Like, these things are important, but they're not like an ordinance that the village has passed to try to deter dangerous behavior, so if some of those had to be moved somewhere else, I think we would still be sending that message that, we care about these other things, but like, I think for an ordinance that we've passed, I think it's gotta be a sign in a really prominent place.
Leanne, a question for you is, what are our options with signage? We see all these graphic designs on these signs here. Is that something that, can we order this?
You'd have to have it custom made.
Custom made, okay. And then, I wish the chief was here, or somebody from the police department, because I'd love to know if we've towed anybody, if we have not, okay. Yeah, so having a sign doesn't take away from the fact that we passed an ordinance. We're still gonna tow cars if they're driving recklessly, correct? Right, that we don't need the sign, we're still gonna do it. I do have strong feelings about having this as at the front of Shorewood. I just feel like it's not, from my perspective. Now, we have a board of others, just from my perspective, I don't think it's welcoming. I know that I see what the point is, but I still don't, I don't like that as the first impression in coming into our community. I would say that I don't, if somebody's driving recklessly, I don't think they're going to see this sign and say, okay, I'm gonna slow down now. But at the same time, I think the cost of printing, the cost of putting up a couple signs is negligible, and I just kind of question the impact of signs, especially a sign with graphics and text, where if you're driving recklessly, the chances are you're looking at a sign and reading all of that and trying to figure that out while you're driving recklessly is probably 0%. So that's what led me to think of like, are there other creative things that we can do? There is about 50 signs, 60 signs on Capitol Drive. I have no idea. I have no idea at this point how fast I can drive, where I can drive, what I'm doing. Like, it's just, there's so many signs right now. To add another sign is just, with graphics and text, is just going to be, for me personally, it's just not going to be as effective as I think we think it's going to be. I would not be in favor of moving any sort of signage that we have, whether it be Tree City, Bird City. I think those are things that we should be proud of as a community. And I would hate to remove those and put something about reckless driving at the front end of our village. It's my personal opinion. We have a board here of other folks, and I'm sure everybody's going to see it differently. I'm still on the side of wanting to think a little bit more outside of the box with this and try to do something a little bit more creative, whether it be yard signs, whether it be something different, something more colorful. I would love to explore those ideas as opposed to just putting another sign up there. I think, I'm just, for whatever reason, if we do a sign, I'm just drawn to no reckless driving, arrest, and vehicle impoundment, like just the text. I think that is the easiest to sort of digest as a driver, as just a straight bold text. I think makes the most amount of sense to me, instead of trying to figure out what graphics mean and text at the same time. So that's kind of where I still stand. Your thoughts on signage and placement?
I'm just gonna offer a perspective.
Mhm.
It seems to me, and I've been thinking about this for a long time, that, they're really. One way to look at this is that there are really two goals.
Mhm.
One goal is to deter reckless driving, which, quite frankly, the vast majority of reckless driving includes high speeds,
Mhm.
or speeds well over the speed limit. I think it's reasonable to say, if a driver's not going to obey a speed limit sign, why will this be any different?
Mhm.
The other goal, and been said here, is educating the community in general.
Yeah.
Or drivers, you know, and unfortunately, I think with signs, typically the drivers you reach are not always the ones who need to read them.
With any educational,
Right.
yeah,
But especially
Websites
this
or-
one,
yeah.
like you said, I mean, if somebody's weaving in and out of traffic, driving 50 down Capitol Drive,
Yeah,
they're not reading signs. So, if in fact, you know, a group, whatever you wanna call it, concedes the first and focuses on the second, which is how do we make sure there's general knowledge in the community that we don't accept reckless driving and that we, you know, we're really looking to make this a calmer, safer, more considerate place. Maybe that's a different line of thought.
mhm. Yeah,
Well, I don't know what that is.
no,
But I can tell you with 100% certainty that that sign is not gonna do anything.
I agree.
People who need to see it will not.
you know, and the cost of putting a sign up is negligible to, I think, the grand scheme of things, but I think we think we need to think a little bit more outside the box and be a little bit more creative with how we approach this. Because somebody that is recklessly driving is not paying attention to the signs, nor do they care what the sign says. You know, and it's just gonna add more visual distraction to the people that are trying to drive down Capitol and comprehend what is actually they're supposed to be doing on Capitol Drive at this point. You know, and so that's where I get stuck. Now, we could just do the easy thing and put up a sign somewhere, remove these signs, put up a no reckless driving sign and be done with it, but I think that's just not gonna be effective. I think we need to think a little bit about it a little deeper here. And I don't know if you've had a chance to talk to your group to see if, I was hoping that there would be a bigger discussion maybe with the group to see if there were any other ideas outside of just this.
nothing
Nothing,
in addition.
no,
We pretty much everything that our thoughts are in the written materials. There, I mentioned the issue about yard signs. Talked about AAA, you know, that their efforts to do that. There were some comments that, well, those are gonna get stolen on Capitol Drive. Guys are gonna love to have those yard signs
somebody's gonna steal yard signs.
in their
Capitol
dorm
Drive.
room, you know, no reckless driving, we tow and impound.
No.
That was a comment. From
Okay,
the group, on that. There's a lot that Leanne says that I don't disagree with, here. It's not intended to be a solution to the problem. If I had some confidence that the police department is going to tow and impound reckless drivers, this summer, this year, maybe I would say, okay, let's put this aside. But we've had this ordinance in place for 6 months now, or is it longer than that? I can't recall. Was it October of last year that this past September?
fairly recently, yeah.
Well, I mean, to
I
be
think-
fair, they also have to catch them.
True, that is true. There are fleeing cars, fleeing motorcycles that people have to pull over. On that.
I would
And there
love,
has to be an officer on Capitol Drive or wherever it is to see it.
I think the easiest thing for us to do is put up a sign, but I'm trying to think bigger picture here. Like, I'm trying to be more effective than just putting up another sign, because I mean, it's just, these signs it's just too much at this point, you know, so it would be great to get the police chief in here too and have this discussion. It'd be nice to hear from their perspective what they think is the most appropriate as well. Would love to hear that opinion.
Would you like to schedule a follow-up discussion?
I think that'd be great. I think that'd be
We can do that.
fantastic. You know, and without Eric here as well, I don't see myself moving forward with a sign. And Sandy, I know it's the easy thing to do, and I know you present a great case here. I think it's the low hanging fruit. It's the easiest thing we can do. Let's try to be more creative with how we get through to people, if there is a way. That's what I want, you know, because the signs, we've got a million of them and none of them seem to work. When it says 25 miles an hour and people are still going 50, it's just, obviously people aren't looking at signs.
Well, ultimately, speeds are mostly controlled by street geometry. We've talked about this for years. Capitol Drive is designed with 4 lanes and then some edge lane. We can either call it a bike lane or a fog line lane or
Like accommodation.
bike accommodation. Thank you, Leanne. That is probably the more accurate term. People are going to drive 40 miles an hour on that because that's what it looks like they're supposed to. That's the message that their brain receives. They aren't looking at their speedometer. They're looking through the windshield and the street is telling them this is designed for 35, 40, even 45 miles per hour. Or late at night, when there's no traffic on there, their brain is telling them this is a 45 to 50 mile per hour street. So I ultimately, you know, we need to change the geometry if we want to change the behavior. That's not going to happen anytime soon, more on a scale of decades than what we have here. So since we're not changing geometry, then that leaves us with education and enforcement. Leanne, you always talk about the 3 E's: education, enforcement, and engineering. Right. So we're not going to really do much with engineering right now. It sounds like maybe the county will all of a sudden magically find billions of dollars.
It's not the county.
Yeah.
We're working with Wiscott, and that's a truck route, and it's a connecting highway that is never going to change until something drastic changes at that level. But with the volume of cars on that street, it's not going to decrease from 4 lanes.
Yeah.
Well, we don't need to argue about that because that's a fight for 15 years, maybe 20 years. And you guys have
It'll be
other
somebody
meetings to
else's
get to.
fight.
Well, I mean,
I'll be dead
Won't be mine.
in all likelihood here. But it is a truck route. It is a state highway. But that doesn't mean it has to be 30 miles an hour, the posted speed limit. And that doesn't mean it has to be designed in such a way that it encourages folks to travel speeds far in excess of 30 miles per hour.
Yeah.
But there are things we can do with WSDOT ultimately, I believe. I'm not a traffic engineer. I'm not an expert. But I've seen other cities do this with their main streets that are state highways. This is our main street. Do we want a village main street? Or do we want Northport Washington Road? Do we want West Blue Mound Road? I don't think we do. I think we can change it. So thanks for listening out.
I appreciate everything you bring on the table. And I, you know, like I said, I think this is something we can get done very easily, but I would love to have a bigger conversation about the, you know, different approach that we can have here. And, you know, I don't know if this is something you go back and you say, you know, to the group and say, hey, you know, is there anything else we can think of here? You know, because I've even thought about like, hey, can we talk to the public art committee? Can we do a long row of colorful signs that spell something out, interest, that we do something a little bit more eye-catching that goes all the way down, you know, in front of the high school? Is there something else that we can do here that is just different than a black and white graphic or text sign that's going to get lost with all the other signs, and potentially replace our like welcoming signs with something a little bit more like, you know, like just a little bit more, you know, forceful, you know, and people come into Shorewood. So I want to be careful with all that. I want to think through all of it before we just say, okay, the sign is the easiest thing. It's going to be, I mean, under, you know, what, $5,000, $10,000 to print.
Okay.
5,000 to,
I have $5,000 to spend on signs all year.
okay, good. Okay,
So
couple,
it better.
it better be. How much, I mean, 3 signs on Capitol, you know. So, you know, but I would say like next steps, if we could have somebody from the police department come in and talk a little bit about what they foresee, what they think would be helpful, how they think they could be involved in the education process of this. If there's anything your committee thinks that could be different than just a sign, would love to hear that. But I think ultimately, if this is the least we can do, then we're going to put up a sign. But let's try to think a little bit outside the box before we just go that route.
So there are no committee meetings at your May 18th board meeting because I believe there's a school event.
Yeah, the sustainability, like the town hall on the school configuration.
So the earliest would be the first meeting of June. And I'll have to confirm the chief's availability.
And I'm assuming we want these signs up before summer, you know, would be ideal. Okay,
I will not be at the first June meeting.
you will not be at
I
the
don't
first June
need
meeting.
To be there. so.
Okay,
But
yeah,
if Chief Worth is available, then I will schedule it on that date. If not, I'll just circle back with you to make sure that the second June meeting is
right,
workable.
okay. Do you have reckless driving signs right now? You just have to order them?
Well, so the only
Depending-
one that actually, the one.
The text-based one that says reckless driving?
We checked with TACO, we checked, we
Yeah.
checked all kinds of
Yeah.
things. There are no standard reckless, there are no stock signs,
Okay,
because this is brand new in Wisconsin.
right,
Even even internet searches, we just didn't come up with anything that was stock. It has to be custom made.
okay. Would we do that internally? Do you have a group?
No,
You can't, there's a
we can make a
group.
text sign.
Uh,
I'm hearing that that's not really what you want, potentially.
right,
So,
and then
no, it would have to be ordered.
does WISTA have to approve graphics, the signs that we put up?
Think so, because. I mean, the Bird City and Tree City signs are there,
Yeah,
unless someone nationally had that. approved.
okay, okay. All right, well, so then this is something we bring back on the June 1st meeting. Does your group meet before that?
Yes, we meet next week.
You meet next week. Is this something that you'd be comfortable bringing up and saying, hey, you know, is there something else we can do? The sign seems like it could happen, but is this
It
worth a
Would
conversation?
Need to be on the agenda.
Yeah,
The agenda came out today.
okay.
I actually put this on
Okay.
the agenda,
Hey,
so I figured there would be an
He's a
update,
mind
so.
reader.
yes.
You're good to go.
Yes.
Great staff.
Good work. All right, so if you guys just have a brief conversation about it, and then we'll reconvene in June and go from there, meet with the whether it be the chief or whoever wants to come in and have this discussion. We can, you know, have that discussion and hopefully have something a little bit more concrete at that meeting.
Super. Thank you for your consideration of the
Thank you for coming in,
request.
Sandy. Really appreciate all your energy here. Sorry it didn't, it's not happening right now, but you know, let's exhaust all the opportunities.
It's just a request. Not all requests are successful. All right, guys. Good seeing you.
See you,
And
Sandy.
we'll
Thank you.
see you.
Enjoy the rest of your night.
Yeah.
It's nicer outside than it is in the boardroom.
God, it's beautiful out there.
All right. Take care.
See ya.
Move to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We are adjourned at 6:43 PM.